This is Gizmo version 1. Gizmo is an open source general purpose MIDI utility device. It is inserted between your MIDI controller and your synthesizer. Gizmo is similar in many ways to the MIDI PAL or the MIDI Solutions event processor, though it was developed completely independently of them. Gizmo runs on an Arduino platform. On top of the Arduino you can see a SparkFun MIDI shield, and attached to the shield via a 4-wire I2C is an Adafruit 16x8 LED matrix. The MIDI shield has 2 pots and 3 buttons, which Gizmo makes use of, and also has a small red and green LED lights, which signal incoming and outgoing MIDI data. In the video, the LED matrix may appear to be yellow and flickering. This is due to the camera. The lights are actually solid, steady, orangish red. In this demo, Gizmo is running on an Arduino Uno, but if you are thinking of extending or developing for Gizmo, I suggest that you upgrade instead to an Arduino Mega, because Gizmo's code takes nearly all of the Uno's memory. Gizmo has a lot of things built in. First, there is an arpeggiator. Let's go to that. There's the arpeggiator. Next, there is a step sequencer. There's also a note recorder. There is a MIDI gauge or monitor. Finally, there is a small MIDI control surface. Additionally, Gizmo has many options to extend its abilities. All of these options are stored in Flash and survive being rebooted. Gizmo's interface is largely menu-driven. To choose a menu option, you turn the left knob until you see the option you want. Then press the right button, which I call the select button. You can always back up at any time by pressing the left button, which I call the back button. Also, if you press and hold the back button, this toggles bypass mode, where the device simply passes through any MIDI it receives. You can tell Gizmo is in bypass mode because the bottom right LED is blinking rapidly. Let's turn bypass mode off. Let's first look at the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator can play 6 different preset and 10 different user-defined arpeggios. Here's up. We'll turn latch mode off. We'll discuss that later. Here's down. Here's up down. Here's random. Gizmo tries hard not to play the same note twice in a row. Here's assign, where Gizmo will play the notes in the order that you press them. Here's chord, where Gizmo simply plays the chord over and over again. For each of these, you can also, well, let's go back to the up-down preset. And enable latch mode. You enable latch mode by pressing the middle button. You can see a small light light up to indicate it. You can choose the number of octaves that you want right here by pressing select. We can go all the way up to 6. Obviously that's beyond the range. Let's go back down to the 0. We'll turn off. Additionally, you can select various options. For example, the tempo. We'll put it back to 120, or thereabouts. That'll do. You can also specify the note value. This is the division of the tempo that the arpeggiator is actually playing. Here it is in quarter note beats. We were using 16 notes. There's also the volume. Well, we'll go over that in a second. Let's do swing next. Maybe we should slow down the tempo a little bit so you can hear this. There we go. We'll turn off swing. You can also transpose things, both negative and positively. And you can change the volume. Presently, let's see, where's the volume? There it is. We're at 4, but we can go quieter. 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 1, all the way up to 8. There are also options for changing the MIDI in channel and the default MIDI out channel, as well as the MIDI control channel. Oh yes. And there is length. Well, let's turn on latch mode first. Now let's go to length. Here's fully legato, all the way to extremely staccato. You can also control Gizmo via NRPN messages. For example, here, I can control it via my MIDI controller. Let's use this to create a new arpeggio. The first thing we have to do is enter the root note. This is the note in the arpeggio pattern which will correspond to the lowest note in the played chord. Your arpeggio pattern can play both notes both above and below the root. So we'll pick, for example, C. Now let's play an arpeggio. You can also enter a rest by pressing the middle button. Let's continue. If you didn't like that, you can scroll back and change things. When you're done, you press the right button, or the select button, and you choose the arpeggio slot to save in. We'll save in 0. And now we're back out into the main arpeggio menu. Now let's play that arpeggio. We'll first go to slot 0. And there's our arpeggio. Let's play it. Notice that the first note isn't a G, it's whatever the top note was, which in this case is a B flat. Now it's a G. Also note the rest. What this means is that the notes that you entered when you created the arpeggio weren't the actual notes that are going to be played. They just define the relative ordering of the notes that are going to be played. Also, the preset arpeggios vary in length with the number of notes you held down your chord, but the user-defined arpeggios are fixed to the notes you define in your arpeggio. This means that if you hold down more notes than in your chord than your arpeggio has available, for example, it'll simply ignore the higher notes. Likewise, if you hold down fewer notes than the arpeggio needs, the arpeggio will wrap around or transpose your chord to obtain the remaining notes to play. That's the arpeggiator.